After country comes the people that make the Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation possible. To our special partner institutions, senior special partner institutions, corporate members, and individual members, all of you, thank you very much. It is only through your generosity and support that we are able to bring you our knowledge sessions every 2 weeks and to our small events that we hope to bring to you as the months come along. To all of you, thank you very much. The Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation is a nonprofit, member-supported organization. We are formed in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, and it's only through your generosity and support that we are with you today. And if you are joining us this morning, this gloomy morning, you can see my lighting's not really the best. I'm dependent on the light coming in from my window, so I do apologize for that. But if you are joining us this morning, welcome. We're glad to see you here. If you are joining us 2 weeks later through our social media uploads on Facebook and on YouTube, welcome wherever in the world you are, whatever time you're watching us. We're glad that you're joining us today, and we hope that today's session brings you a lot of value. Today we'll be talking about aquaculture today and the marriage of aquaculture and information technology. If you are involved in aquaculture, you're involved in information technology developments for the aquaculture sector, for the agricultural sector. If the session has brought you any value, you have questions, comments for the speaker or for us, leave us a comment. We hope that we can engage with you in further discussion. And if what we do brings you value in any way, consider joining us as a member. As I've mentioned, we are a member-supported foundation, and with your generosity and support, we can continue to develop our foundation and our efforts. Our links are in the description. Introduce yourself, and we'd be very happy to have you on board. Okay, so with that, I'd like to call on the chair of the foundation. Congratulations, Ernie, on your on being re-elected to our board of trustees. And please, I turn the floor over to you to introduce our speaker for this morning. Ernie, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're very happy and honored to have Armand Sazon, one of the dynamic young people in the Philippines today that will push agriculture, especially agriculture in the seaside. His topic, as you know, is our sustainable, not just sustainable, but sustainable future using a Team Dagat model. First of all, we'd like to say that he holds a bachelor's degree from Ateneo in management. But more importantly, his postgraduate is in innovation and design thinking. That's interesting because that we need now is new stuff, right? We have to have a revolution in our agriculture. And that's what this forum is about, bringing new technology. And he has 13 years of experience in the creative industry as an advising executive, as an entrepreneur. But more importantly, in this year, right, 2024, he was selected as a fellow of the Blue Pioneers Accelerator Program. I mentioned accelerator because that means jumping ahead, right? And it was given at the University of California in Santa Cruz. So it's also global. Now, having said that, we look forward to seeing that, but we'd like to state, as usual, that first, Armand will be asking to give your phone number verbally. We know it can be on the chat box, but many people are viewing from abroad. And so we'd like to give the number so they can call you anytime without having to go through bureaucracy going through us. Secondly, we'd like to give you 5 or 10 minutes of your personal life, so we contact you personally. We have to know your background, etc. So give us your background, how you got into this, and why you're inspired to do this work. And then after that, you go into your talk. When you do your talk, let's remember what our prayer said. The prayer said that, dear Lord, give us guidance for the activities related to this. As a matter of fact, that's what our chairman said. He said, before he passed away, he said, please make sure that your objective is not just to give the forum. Your objective is to alleviate poverty by using the technology and insights of the forum. So we like to say that during your talk, perhaps after it, you can tell us specifically your audience here, both here and globally, how we can help your mission. Now we're mainly from business, but we've been able to help the speaker with contacts with the government, with banks, with other groups. And so we'd like to help you, in addition to probably having your particular findings or insights influence what we do, we want to spread it, but that's our work to spread the technology, etc. Right? So again, your phone number, then your background, 5 to 10 minutes, then you go to your talk. But please remember, we are here to help alleviate poverty. That's not done for force. That's done by using the findings you have and bring it out to the world so that we can create action. Right? So we're not a NATO. NATO meaning NATO, no action, talk only. We want a lot of action, talk and a lot of action. So on that note, Armand, it's my honor and pleasure. Start with your phone number and then give us your background, 5 to 10 minutes, and then go into your talk, remembering that we want to find out how we can help your mission. On that note, Armand, thank you for coming. I think you're an entrepreneur par excellence. University of California, Santa Cruz has recognized you, and we the Filipinos want to do the same. Okay, Armand, please take it away.
Thank you, Sir Ernie. Congratulations again for getting re-elected. Julius, thank you for inviting me. Everyone, thank you for having me today. It's an honor to speak to you guys. My number is 0917 5272 966. You can also email me at armand@tindagat.ph.
Okay,
As
just to say,
mentioned earlier. Oh,
yeah, just to say
sure.
for everybody to take down the number 0917 527 2966. We encourage you to talk to the speaker because you can share so much. Okay, please go ahead, Armin.
Thank you, Sir Ernie. I've also left my details on the chat. If you wish to copy and paste, please do so. Let me share my screen so that I can start introducing myself. Telling you more about my experience in the past. No? So I started an advertising agency back in 2011. And since then, we've been handling different brands from the automotive, real estate, electronics, digital, food and beverage, banking, beauty and healthcare too. So that's really my background. I am an advertising executive, but back in 2021, I actually finished my master's in Asian Institute of Management. I finished my master's in innovation in business. So aside from my postgraduate degree in innovation in design thinking, I also finished my master's in innovation in business. So the discipline that I really practice is innovation. And aside from running an advertising agency, this is what I'll share with you later, the Tindagat model. I also run an aspiring social enterprise called Tindagat, which is dedicated to helping small-scale fishers and small-scale fisheries. So these are the ones that you see on the screen. Those are the fishers from Lubang Island and some of the products that came from them and some of the dishes that our partner chefs have created with the products that our partner fishes have caught for them. So later I'll share more about Tindagat. But the inception of Tindagat started with my masters at AIM. It started as a capstone project, and then my co-founders Flora and Alan Apello, we decided to pursue and continue it even after graduation. So through the course of the program, we entered our concept in various hackathons, in accelerator programs such as Conservation X Labs, where we got our first grant. We were also a top 10 awardee of BPI CNAG a couple of years ago. And then recently, we've become an official partner of Better Seafood Philippines, which I will introduce to you later also during my presentation. And then just a month ago, I was in University of California in Santa Cruz as a fellow of Blue Pioneers, primarily because of our venture in Tindagat. So again, I'm Armand Sazon. People call me Armand or Saz. My number is 0917 0917-5272966. And for today, I'd like to talk about our Tindagat model, how we see a sustainable future by scaling it, um, and which is anchored really in empowering small scale Filipino fisher folk. And by doing that, the impact is protecting also our Philippine seas. So let me start by sharing some interesting facts about our industry, both global and local. According to McKinsey, the global seafood demand will grow by 14% by 2030 from 2020. This is, I think, largely driven by population growth, but really the growing markets in Asia, Europe, Latin America, and Oceania, which we're a part of. And the sad case though is that over 85% of fisheries around the world are considered overexploited. So fish stocks, at least for the wild caught, is really going down. Here in the Philippines, data from 2022, this is the total seafood production of our country, which is 4.3 million metric tons. And the aquaculture sector is producing almost 55% of it, and it's growing year on year. However, the wild caught has been um, slowly declining year on year for the past couple of years. But at the same time, our commercial fishers and also municipal fishers are still dependent. Their livelihoods are still dependent on this. So commercial fishing is produces almost 20% of our production. So when I say commercial, these are the big fishing vessels who go out at sea, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month at a time, and then when they go back, they um, they get a haul of a big amount, tons. But for municipal fishers, uh, these are members of coastal communities. They go out to fish daily. They usually have small boats. Maybe it can fit at a maximum of 3 or 4 people. So they go out at night usually, and then they come back in the morning. And then they try to sell already their catch for the day. And then they produce more than our commercial fishing sector. So they produce 26% of our total production. Now, whatever you see, so according to Oceana, whatever you see in the market, whether that's supermarkets, wet markets, or retail, most likely 2 out of 5 of those seafood actually come from illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. Because only 7% of our fisheries in the country are engaged in any shape or form of sustainability program. So this is something that we need to change. Um, Now for consumption, Filipinos actually eat a lot of fish compared to our global counterparts. We consume 40 kilograms per year per capita. Uh, However, the global average is just 20 kilograms per year per capita. So we're consuming twice as many as the average global. And 80% of our seafood in the market that you see, the ones that mostly come, or not naman mostly, but 40% actually come from illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing. 80% of those are sourced locally. The fishery sector had the highest poverty incidence amongst all sectors, even compared to the farmers. So 30.6% of our fisher folk are considered poor, and they've increased the poverty rate increase. They also had the highest rate, no, of 4.4%. So it's been increasing according to PSA from their report in 2018. And our registered municipal fisher folk is at 2.45 million. So these are just the registered municipal fisher folk. This doesn't include the unregistered ones. So their sector is really a big one in the Philippines. So with all of these data, you see that the demand for seafood is growing. However, overfishing, IUU fishing, and other non-sustainable practices still prevail. And on top of these environmental challenges, the fisheries sector also suffers from the highest poverty incidence among all sectors. So this is our reality, but there are a lot of solutions out there that are happening at the moment. The marine protected areas have been getting a lot of support. They've been growing. At the moment, I think the initiatives is really mapping out all of the marine MPAs or marine protected areas around the Philippines. So it's been getting a lot of support. There are specific species regulation, such as the one in blue swimming crabs, or the tuna industry also has that. This is supported by BIFAR and a lot of NGOs and other government agencies. The aquaculture sector has been growing. A lot of investments have been pouring in, and then this sector has a lot of interest, both locally and also internationally. Excuse me, sorry. And there have been improvements in the cold chain here in the Philippines. There are big traders, big players who've been investing in ice plants, and then they placed it in near fisher folk communities already. So that has brought down some of the costs of our partner fisher folk. So that's been improving as well. And then BIFAR and DOST have been giving grants, have been supporting livelihoods of our fishers, alternative livelihoods. Also testing in for aquaculture, DOST has been investing in that. So there are a lot of initiatives, and also sustainability discussion has been happening already in the HoReCa or hotel restaurants catering industry. There are regular conferences, conventions, and meetings happening already. So these are the sea of solutions trying to address the reality of of the challenges and obstacles we're facing, both locally and globally. So while there are numerous solutions that exist to address the challenges, we believe, at least in Tindagat, that small-scale fishers continue to still struggle and remain undervalued. Right? They are the sector that's the poorest in our country at the moment. And so I'd like to quote Bobby Roldan, the Vice Chair of Luzon at Pamalakaya, the National Federation of Small Fisher Folk Organizations in the Philippines. In one of his interviews, he said, the Filipino fisherman can be compared to a worker for a factory, except he sells his labor to catch fish in the sea. They are our food producers, but they don't have a say on where to sell their food, nor can they dictate the prices. There are various factors involved on why this is happening. There's financial literacy, lack of financial literacy. There's a cycle of debt. That's why they don't have the bargaining power, because they actually borrow from consolidators or the first buyer of their catch. So therefore, they can't sell it anymore to other traders. They don't have the bargaining power, and then so many other things like they are the most affected by disaster, by typhoons. There's a lot of risks involved in their work and many other things. So in Tindagat, our hypothesis, or really our thought, is, could a new value chain, aside from the existing one, unlock their full potential? So that's what we've been trying to do in the past couple of years. I'd like to introduce you to what we call grassroots micro value chains, where we try to unlock their potential as entrepreneurs, as value creators in this industry. So this is what the chain can, or what the chain looks like. This we've streamlined it. So on the left you'll see several or a couple of fisher folk communities. In this micro value chain, we enable or empower our fisher folk communities to do catching in a responsible way, post-harvest processing, packing, and even shipping. So they are responsible for more value creation in the chain. And us as Tindagat, sorry, excuse me, we're in charge of managing the supply chain, financing operations, marketing their products, and also of managing the sales. And then we deliver directly to consumers through our direct to consumers channels, such as our website in tindagat.ph. So I invite you to visit it, to visit our website. You can actually buy products there. Again, it's tindagat.ph. And also we also have a subscription uh, service for seasonal fish for our consumers here in Metro Manila. And then we have a couple of resellers or distributors and institutional buyers, such as restaurants and also office canteens. So that's how short our grassroots micro value chains are. And really, our mission is to empower small scale fishers by building these grassroots micro value chain, because we believe that by handling more of the process, our fisher folk gain greater control of the products that they produce, and then therefore gain better income. So far, under these initiatives, we've been able to empower our fisher folk partners by helping them be able to create value in the chain. So we have what we call premium pricing for partner fishers. We already buy the fish that our partner fishers caught at a higher rate compared to the price dictated in their area. So for example, if the casa or the traders actually buy a kilo of lapu-lapu at 180 pesos per kilo, we buy it automatically at 200 or even at 210 pesos per kilo from the fishers. Thereby, they're already getting um, more income. We've equipped our partner in Lubang Island with post-harvest processing capabilities. They know already how to clean, gut, and produce fillets, steak cuts, and even marinated products through training and through the tools and equipment that we provided them. And then we help them do product development. Before, in Lubang, they usually just dry um, flying fish, but now we're selling filleted flying fish. And then we've also taught them how to do marinated product as well. So we do product development and branding in partnership with our fisher folk community. So this is how the short upstream uh, could look like. This is what we call the shore to door chain. So our products that come from our fisher folk are actually wild caught. Okay, so they are the gifts from the sea. But instead of selling them fresh chilled, which most of the time consumers consider fresher than frozen fresh, but actually that's not necessarily the case. Some fresh chilled products that you see in the market have been transferred several times, have been held by different hands along the supply chain. But what we sell really are frozen fresh. So right at the shore, or we have micro post harvest processing facilities, which is home based in our fisher partners. So right after catch, uh, it's not gonna even reach paved roads. They will be able to process it already, and then store in a in a freezer, and then as the batch accumulate, right, and then they ship it to us at here in Quezon City. That's where our storage facility is, and then that's where we distribute. From there, that's when we distribute it to our customers, both direct to consumer and also our institutional buyers. What we provide are pre-cleaned and cut already, and then frozen fresh. But in the coming months, we're also gonna provide dried and also smoked goods. So by doing this, actually our consumers also benefit because they get to enjoy the freshest seafood directly coming from the shores of our partner fishers. So in a nutshell, Tindagat helps small-scale fishing communities become self-reliant by giving them control over their products. This leads to fresher, higher quality seafood for consumers while providing better income for the fishers. So in the past couple of years, we've been able to work with primarily two main communities. First is our original community in Lubang Island, Mindoro. This is Tita Leni, and then Tito Jaime Oyao they are our local leaders there in Barangay Tagbak in Lubang Island. And then we also work with a women-led fish processing cooperative in Bogtong, Palawan, led by Kagawad Nanette. Um, through from these two communities, we've been able to move 2.4 tons of responsibly sourced seafood. And then as an extra income, our Lubang fishers actually gained an additional 160,000 pesos from the fisher premiums and the post-harvest processing fees that we pay them. And as an example, this is Tito Jaime from Lubang. Before partnering with us, he and his wife sold daily their catch by tricycle by going around in their communities. Now they supply and process our fish, and also they buy from their fellow fishermen, thereby sharing also the extra income. And then, according to him, this partnership has already helped him double their income for their household. We've been able to sell 1.1 million pesos worth of responsibly sourced seafood from the communities. We've had 140 direct consumers. We've done more than 180, probably more than 900 as of this moment, deliveries. And then this is a testimonial from one of our consumers about really the freshness and the quality of the products that our fisher partners have been able to produce. This is Miss Ellen. According to her, her 19-year-old son told her that, Mom, the fish or the dish that you cook smells so good. Then right after eating it, he exclaimed, "Oh my God, this fish is so good." So just like just like Miss Ellen, our other customers are really inspired to cook different dishes for their family. We've also been able to sell 260,000 pesos worth of responsibly sourced seafood to distributors and institutional buyers such as James and Daughters and PS Food. On the right, you'll see Chef Jonas really happy about the product that we've shared with him. So according to him, sustainable fish for the win, and he posted this on his Instagram. And lastly, in the course of our development, we've become an official partner of Better Seafood Philippines. The Better Seafood Philippines is the NGO, or right now they're called Bluer Seas Philippines, but their product is Better Seafood Philippines Responsible Seafood Sourcing Standard. If you there is a sustainable label for products from Maritime or MSC, Maritime Stewardship Council. Usually, international brands get their supply chains vetted by MSC, and then because of that, they get a certification from them. And then this certification probably costs 10 million pesos, and then they would need to renew um, 5 years, every 5 years. No? So that's very expensive. If you are just selling locally, that's something that you cannot really afford. So a global nonprofit called Sustainable Fisheries, and also USAID have invested in a program called Fish Right, and then Fish Right led and put together a movement called Better Seafood Philippines, and then together with different players in like retailers, other fish distributors, and also communities. Right now, we're in the middle of a movement trying to establish this standard. It's like a checklist of compliance, of traceability, of transfer of products from different. It's really vetting the supply chains of different fisheries so that we can, as an industry, we will be able to assess without spending so much. So we're a part of this movement. We're one of the pioneering um, brands or organizations that our supply chains have been vetted and assessed by this checklist, by this standard. And I'm happy to share that, of course, our our supply chains have passed the standard, and all of the communities that we work with are we can ensure that the products that they produce are responsibly sourced. Now, to understand Tindagat's role in the broader scheme of things, I'd like to invite us to examine it from a multi-level perspective. So we'd like to look at it from the macro trends, also at the regime level, where the state of things, we can describe the state of things, what are the best practices that are happening at the moment, and also the innovation and experiments that are happening. So a while ago, I've shared with you the different solutions that are existing in the market, such as the marine protected areas, aquaculture expansion, the foreign DOST initiatives, and others. So I would consider this to be in the regime level. This is the state of things. There are improvements that are happening in the industry, and then they are pushed by the key stakeholders from the government, from the big brokers and traders, from the NGOs, etc. But around what's happening, there are macro trends that are trying to create pressure in the current state of things, and trying to create openings where innovations and also experiments can probably penetrate and eventually, hopefully, can be part of the regime as well, so that we can continuously change the state of things for the better. So there's a huge demand for climate action. There's a demand for transparency, not just in food supply chains, but really across the board in different categories. There's consumer demand or expected or have emerged expectations from consumers about wellness. And then there's a demand for more authentic social responsibility from the NGOs, government, and also the corporate sector. And below are innovations and experiments that are happening. So a while ago, I've mentioned already the RSS or Responsible Seafood Sourcing Standard made by Better Seafood Philippines. Again, this is an innovation in response to trying to recreate or having a local version of the expensive MSC certification for sustainability. Right now, I believe it's still in this level. It's not yet in the state of things. It's not being used, at least largely yet. But I have there's huge promise here. I think in the next 2-3 years, we may be able to see it entering in the regime level already. And this is really where Tindagat is at the moment. Um, we're trying to provide an alternative value chain. Uh, we'd like to have a more efficient and equitable value chain alternative from the state of things because we want our fisher folk communities to provide more responsibility in value creation so that they can increase their income, right? Uh, so how can we scale? Really, this is my proposal, and then I think this is where I would try to get your feedback on later after this meeting. Um, this is what we're trying to do. How can we scale and become part of the regime level as Tindagat? So let's start by imagining the ideal scenario for any successful business. So that we can contextualize our proposed way of trying to scale Tindagat. So in an ideal scenario, there would be an unmet demand in the market waiting to be satisfied. So it's about now finding a reliable and consistent supply source which is capable of meeting that demand. And now as a business or an entrepreneur or as a company, you try to bridge this gap. And then afterwards develop the operations and systems to scale the value creation. And then this kind of ideal scenario can help you have a sustainable business for years to come. However, for Tindagat, we're facing really a chicken and egg dilemma. We must simultaneously grow and balance both the demand and the supply for responsible seafood sourced products while overcoming additional hurdles on both sides. On the demand side, at the moment, there's really little demand for responsibly sourced seafood. Primarily, the preference of our consumers revolve around in price, freshness, quality. Um, the majority of the market don't really care yet where their seafood is coming from. Whether it comes from illegal sources or not, they don't really care at the moment. It's really about price managing budgets. So in order to change this perspective, or we would need to educate the market, and educating the market is costly. And if we take on that burden, we are not assured that we will be able to um, get our investments after, because once we've educated the market, what prevents we don't know, there is nothing that can prevent other players to also providing the same type of product in the market. So there's that burden for the first mover in trying to educate the market about responsibly sourced seafood. On the supply side, there is also still limited supply due to a small number of grassroots micro value chains. There is also a challenge in scaling operations for these micro value chains because of insufficient financing, for the cost of goods sold or production costs, and then also cash flow management. Because when we do sell to institutional buyers, there are terms that we need to adhere to, such as 30 days uh, and alike. And in order for us to increase the number of grassroots microvalue chains, we need a significant investment to build the capacity of these fisher folk communities, which involve um, tests, equipping them with post-harvest processing equipment and tools, trainings, trips and visits to the community, and then test shipments. Now, while the tides of the challenges may be high, so it's very challenging, really, we're really excited because of the potential solution involving establishing a parallel NGO and then implementing a blended finance approach. This proposed solution. I've already incorporated many of the things that I've learned from my fellowship in UCSC in the USA. So on the screen, you see a diagram of our grassroots micro value chain. If we are able to establish a parallel NGO alongside Tindagat, where we can try to secure grants and also manage relationships with donors, then we'll be able to have the funds to build the capacity and thus creating more grassroots micro value chain, which is aligned to our model. And at the same time, as an NGO that creates social good for consumers, we can also create programs for consumer education. A year ago, we held what we call Catch and Learn Caravan. We partnered with a local elementary school. We brought our partner Fisher from Lubang to meet the students and engage with them directly. And we've created an interactive session where the students get to learn about sustainability, about the different types of fishes, about the diversity, our biodiversity here in the Philippines, and social sciences as well. They get to understand the plight of our partner fisher folk, and it was really an engaging experience. It's something that we can scale, replicate in other schools as well. Just recently, we applied for a grant in UNDP. The results are coming soon. Hopefully, we're successful in getting the grant. But we're we proposed campaigns to promote underutilized, non-threatened seafood species to diversify the options in the market, and then therefore reducing the pressure on overfished species. Usually, if you ask the younger generation, they would about seafood that they know, they'd probably just say, tilapia, bangus, maybe even lapu-lapu. But we have such a diverse seafood around in the Philippines, which they can appreciate better. And then that's what we want to do. Promote underutilized non-threatened species. And then lastly, this is what we call gabaybayin. Just like how Better Seafood Philippines has established an alternative for MSC certification, we're also proposing an alternative to Monterey Bay's Seafood Guide or WWF's Seafood Guide, Seafood Watch, so that we can have a local science-based seafood guide to help consumers make informed choices about sustainable seafood. We don't have this yet. If you search it up on Google, if you search WWF Seafood Guide, you'll see that there's one in Malaysia, in Singapore, etc. But there's nothing yet in the Philippines. So that's something that we'd like to do as well as part of consumer education. And sorry, as an additional actor in our ecosystem, we'd like to introduce value-driven investors to support the operational expenses of our community-based grassroots micro value chains. We'd like to offer a modest profit while contributing to sustainable livelihoods, local economic development, and marine conservation for value-driven investors. So how this would look like would be the NGO would search for and identify a fisherfolk community in partnership with other NGOs that is in need of capacity building. Sorry. And our social enterprise in Dagat connects with value-driven investors or identifies also a value-driven investor who's willing to support the community's operational costs. And the NGO, through grants or donor partnerships, will fund the capacity building of that said fisher folk community. And then afterwards, the NGO conducts training and workshops to empower that community. And then we activate the community, activate the grassroots micro value chain, and Tindagat now operates the supply chain that happens and then distributes the products to consumers, distributors, and institutional buyers. This is the new elements in our ecosystem. These aren't necessarily new. They are have been proven effective in similar contexts. So there's this company called Abalobi in South Africa. They also operate with an NGO social enterprise hybrid model, and then they empower South African fisher folk by providing training, market access, and support services. So it's very similar to what we're trying to do. And locally, in terms of introducing value-driven investors, there's capital for sustainable agricultural projects. You can also search it up. I think they are available in Malaysia and also here in the Philippines. They offer competitive returns and focus on social impact. They attract value-driven investors who want to contribute to a better agriculture sector. So this is our proposed model that we think can help in trying to address both the difficulties in trying to increase the demand and also the supply issues of Tindagat. This is our current situation at the moment. We have two communities. We have our website, our e-commerce site. We have a subscription model. We have distributors in Las Piñas and San Mateo Rizal. And we have institutional buyers. Primarily, it's James and Daughters and PS Food. But we're about to hit high seas. We're already in the works of introducing two new communities in Roxas, Palawan who can provide dried goods in partnership with an NGO and Better Seafood Philippines. There's also a community in Nagtulong, Zambales who smoke fish. So we will be able to offer smoked galunggong really soon. And in trying to market to direct to consumers, we've learned that traditional promotions, traditional advertising don't really work. It's not enough to say in your advertising materials that you're responsibly sourced or that it's ethical sourcing, that you provide better income to the fishers. It doesn't really work. Even if we promote the freshness, it's really hard to convince people to change their buying behavior, change their where they used to buy from, right? So from what we've learned, the setting where we really converted the most is when we were talking to a captive audience. So we're changing how we're marketing ourselves to consumers. We're gonna actually start doing cooking classes and then focused on marketing to hobby cooks. Since we have a lot of chef partners, this is something that we'd like to offer. So in a way, our marketing should also be able to earn us income. And then for distributors, we're in talks already with Organic Options and also Walter Mart. So that will be available. So the products of our community partners, at least the ones that have volume, soon hopefully will be able to sell in retail outlets and in supermarkets already. And through a good partner, we'll also explore the big markets, the networks of WOPEX. So we'd like to, this is about completing the picture. Right now, this is what we're doing at the moment. We're currently refining our theory of change to create a comprehensive roadmap to achieve social impact, really refining that model. And then we're also developing our financial model We'll create a short-term financial plan, 3 to 5 years, for our proposed NGO social enterprise hybrid, ensuring that the impact of our theory of change actually is aligned with our financial projections. And then afterwards, we'll try to secure funding and then set up also our NGO. This is when we'll seek funding and support to establish the formal NGO structure. So how you can help? Support responsibly sourced seafood. This is really the low-hanging fruit. Please visit tindagat.ph. We deliver in Metro Manila, in adjacent cities as well, so that you can order fresher, high-quality seafood while providing better income for fishers. And then lastly, I hope you can share your expertise with us. If you'd like to support our vision, this model, please share your contacts as well. Your expertise, network, and resources can be invaluable for us. This is the team that we have. So beside me, that's my co-founder, Flora Belenario. She works for Rare. She's a fisheries expert. Alan Apello, who's also my batchmate. He's an ESG professional. And we have Isa, Sam, and Danny. They are our marketing team. They are in charge of growth and supporting marketing and sales. And we have Max on the lower right. She's the one really involved in the daily interactions with our communities. And then we're supported by local partners such as Better Seafood Philippines and also a global network in Blue Pioneers in UC Santa Cruz. So please, again, visit tindagat.ph, and you can also follow our socials. You can search it up at using @tindagat.ph. So thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to share about Tindagat. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So thank you very much to everybody for joining us this morning. Unfortunately, as I've mentioned earlier, this is the end of our formal session. If you are joining us here this morning, please do stay on for the informal session. The informal session is exclusive to the members and donors of the ABCD Foundation. That will continue after this. But if you are joining us online through our free social media uploads 2 weeks later, I'm afraid this is the extent of what you can get for free. So first of all, we'd like to give our certificate of appreciation to our speaker for this morning. So the Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation, in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, together with all of our members, our special partner institutions, senior special partner institutions, corporate and individual members, all present this certificate of appreciation to Arman Sazon for his invaluable support in the advocacy and promotion of agribusiness and countryside development, and for his commendable and unselfish services rendered to this foundation as our resource speaker, given on our 20th weekly online meeting of 2024, the second day of September in Pasig City, Philippines. Signed, Ernie Ordonez as our chairman and myself as our president. So for those of you who do have to go, as I've mentioned, I am very sorry. This is the extent of what you can get for free online. The Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation is in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, and we are a non-profit organization. We are member supported, and we rely on your support and generosity to continue operating and to bring you our knowledge sessions every 2 weeks. If today's session has brought you any value, if you are working in the aquaculture industry, if you're working in logistics, if you're trying to bridge the gap between farmers and markets, do consider leaving us a comment below, leaving your questions for the speaker or for other people within the foundation, or you'd like to talk about your experience. We'd love to hear from you. If what we do brings you any value, consider joining us as a member. Again, we are reliant on your support and generosity to continue operating. Our links are in the description. Consider joining us as a member. Introduce yourself. We'd be very happy to have you on board. If you are joining us today online and live, please stay on for our informal session. But if you are joining us 2 weeks later, I'm afraid we're going to have to say goodbye to you. Our next session 2 weeks from now, that's going to be on September 17th. Still on Tuesday at 8 to 10 a.m. here in the Philippines, will be Itong Torres from the Philippine Food Bank Foundation. Philippine Food Bank Foundation engages in food rescue for charitable reasons. So we hope that you can join us for our next session then. But unfortunately, again, if you're joining us online, I have to say goodbye to you. We hope to see you in our next session, and we hope you have a good day.